Now, for more on the ongoing crisis in Egypt, I'm joined by Nabil Mikhail, a political analyst and professor at George Washington University. Thank you so much and welcome to the show. Friday was termed the Day of Rage, and now there are calls for more protests. In fact, weeks and days of protests. What will break the cycle of violence?
To crush the opposition. It's like a military commander who said, in order for the enemy to surrender, storm the city. So the police and gradually people, militias, not in the sense of Iraq or the typical militia, the armed forces will basically be standing up against the Muslim brothers. I'm so endeared to the news that many Muslims are protecting Christian churches. This is the civilization of Egypt. America should support the Egyptian military, because if you cut aid, this does not ensure the build-up of a democracy, because the Egyptian army is not fighting Democrats. These are real thugs, are motivated by religious zeal, and they want to ruin Egypt. So crush the opposition.
There's a couple of things I want to ask you, but you are of the opinion that the situation in Egypt is not as dire or as serious as what people are seeing on television. But how do you explain the pictures that we're seeing here? It wouldn't be serious if you didn't have heads of state and presidents speaking out about the violence.
They have to speak because this is a dynamic scene, and it is also a degree of turmoil. So they cannot boycott Egypt. But like, say, Egypt is 85 million people. The Egyptians in the United States number close to 1 million, a little less. And what you showed me now are just very scattered scenes of sporadic protest. The Egyptian middle class supports the current transition government. The middle class always is afraid of fascism, of religious theocracy, and other forms of authoritarian rule. So they can tolerate the military, and I will support it. And if the military acquired a degree of legitimacy after the defeat of the opposition in a week, the military will have a higher stage and a bigger size of legitimacy.
And maybe you could help us understand this, because you're saying that the middle-class Egyptians support this interim government, yet we have not really heard from the interim president, Ali Mansour, at all. We're hearing from the general of the military. We're seeing what the military is doing, and it appears that the military is running the country. How can you help the international community understand the dynamics of all this?
Adopt a strategic perspective, because the Office of the President of Egypt issued a communique yesterday blaming Obama and telling him you are inducing violence if you are not taking sides. Frankly, I'm of the position that if Obama will not support the military, the crisis in Egypt will haunt him, because it will blame Hillary for supporting Ann Patterson, the ambassador who tried to keep the Islamicists. It will also blame many Republicans like Rand Paul and others for trying to cut aid against a country that is thwarting the establishment of a theocracy. I read yesterday that President Putin met with Prince Bandar, the director of Saudi intelligence. So there are other countries who are thinking strategically. You are making your government or statement angry, but anger is not a strategy.
But is the United States even really a factor in this? Because from what it sounds like, the Egyptians don't even really care about this aid anyway, and you have all these other countries weighing in, saying that they're going to cut aid. Is it really the United States, or is there something more?
It is both the United States and something more, because the United States has always demanded, for instance, from the Pakistani military more effort to fight terrorism. When the Egyptian military does fight terrorism, we are blaming the Egyptians. So where is the strategy here? And something that both of us recall. In February, March 1991, Bush and Powell, Bush the father, opted not to topple Saddam from power, hoping that the Iraqi army will do it. So if America uses military coups as a tool of its foreign policy, why would you deny for 85 million Egyptians the choice of putting the military as the fourth branch of government to arbitrate disputes and stabilize the country and help the country launch the movement toward democracy?
Point taken. What happens now, though? How does this situation resolve the South? How does it get back to a democracy? Should the international community basically let Egypt sort itself out?
No, the international community should not brandish the slogan civil war. Civil wars happen with the absence of a central authority. But Egypt does have a central authority since the pharaohs. So central authority, a powerful center will keep basically be in power. It will not diminish. So they should make the right strategic choices, support the middle class, support modernization, support moderate forms of religion. Do not really be scared by images of scenes. Yes, we do deplore these images of violence, but this is not Egypt. Egypt is much bigger than this picture of hatred. And again, do not use the word civil war. Civil war does not apply to Egypt. There are no militias. The army is very powerful. The police is very strong. And people support the center.
All right, Professor Mikhail from George Washington University, thank you so much. We appreciate your perspective.
Thanks for the questions.